We asked him what photo he wanted. And we were going back and forth, and there's a really nerdy one with him with a little hat on. And then I said, which photo do you want? And then he laughed and said, why not the one with the goat? I didn't know which one was the one with the goat, and I looked at it online, and I sent it to one of my colleagues, and my colleague goes, this is a joke. And I'm like, the speaker wants the goat? Let's give him the goat. So, Pavel, thank you very much for joining us to discuss the perspectives on the crossroads between freedom and responsibility.
Thank you, and thank you for the goat.
So during the last break, I had a number of conversations. There was a lot of technologists here, Bitcoiners, philanthropists, a lot of journalists. And I wanted to start off with a softball that I picked up from a few people here, just to make you feel more comfortable. Are you a Russian asset?
Well, I'm Russian, and I would rather die than become anyone's asset. And I think people who express this view have very limited knowledge of my life story and what I did before Telegram, what I did with Telegram, and the role my previous company, VK, and Telegram played in defending freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and privacy in Eastern Europe. So just to give a very short recap for people who are maybe not familiar with my biography, I started what became the largest social network in Russia and the post-Soviet states back in 2006, and I publicly refused to comply with certain demands coming from the Russian authorities when they contradicted the values of freedom of speech and the values of people's right to privacy. And this is very well documented, and as a result of that, I had my apartment raided, I had my office raided, I had criminal investigations launched against me. I ended up losing the company I created. I had to sell it at below market price. And eventually, you know, I started Telegram, which also became very popular in Russia by 2017, 2018, at which point Russia demanded encryption keys, and we refused to comply because we believed that people shouldn't be surveilled. And then we started this anti-censorship platform, this movement called Digital Resistance, and we have been defending the right of the people for free expression in that region and in other regions. So I don't think any other social media platform has spent so much effort and so much money in protecting freedoms in Eastern Europe, and I find it extremely offending, you know, when people say, "Are you a Russian asset?"
So then why is it that people make this claim that you work for the FSB, for the Russian regime?
Well, I think one of the reasons could be is that people tend to view freedom of speech in a one-sided way. They love you when you protect their political allies and the voices that they agree with, whereas when you also protect their political rivals, they tend to hate that. And particularly today in Europe, when the political debate is so heated and politicians love to dismiss all criticism coming their direction as some Russian fake news or some plot coming from Russia, which is, by the way, a tool taken from the authoritarian playbook. But when they do that, myself and Telegram, as a platform that protects all free speech, regardless of whether we agree with it or not, we also become criticized. But we have a pretty straightforward track record of defending everybody, regardless of the views. During COVID, we protected equally Black Lives Matter movements and, for example, protesters against lockdowns. I give you a most recent example. We received a demand from the French police to shut down a public channel on Telegram, which was organized by far left protesters and demonstrators. And we looked at this channel, it seemed completely legitimate, and we refused to comply, despite obvious personal risks I'm taking with these decisions. And the reason we refuse to comply is not because we agree with the ideas of communism, right?
Well, what's wrong with communism?
Where do I start? I was born in 1984, and by age 4 and 5, I was brought to Italy, so I could experience both systems, the free market, free speech system, and the planned economy, restricted speech system. And even as a 4 or 5-year-old boy, I could already see the difference. So to give you the most obvious example, we arrived to Italy. I instantly discover I have dozens of TV channels with great cartoons, and I have hundreds of ice cream kinds, whereas in the late Soviet Union, we just had a few TV channels showing often the same stuff about the Communist Party. And I remember we had two or three kinds of ice cream. So
what kind of ice creams did you have in the Soviet Union? Was it like vanilla and chocolate? I mean, what did you have?
I remember we had Eskimo, we had plombier, and we have this thing called slivochnoye. I'm not sure you're familiar with that.
No, definitely not familiar with Eskimo ice cream. So, but let's rewind a little bit. What inspired you to create Telegram after your experience with VK that you discussed?
Yeah, so it started in December 2011 when I publicly refused to comply with an order from the prosecutor's office in Russia to shut down the opposition groups. People were protesting in the streets of Moscow, hundreds of thousands of people, and I received this demand to shut down the communities on VK, the company I was running, and I refused to do that, but I also made fun of it. So I published the scan of the request, and I also added a photo of a dog in a hoodie with its tongue out, and said, "This is my official response to the prosecutor's office when it comes to blocking these channels." So I refused to do that, and it was funny, but then it stopped being funny when I realized there's armed policemen storming my apartment, and I don't know what to do, and I decided I need to get in touch with my brother and with my team, and I instantly realized there's no way to do that, because back at the time everything was monitored, everything was surveilled. Even WhatsApp, that claims now they protect privacy, and they started to add encryption only after Telegram was launched. Before that, they were sending messages in plain text. It was easily surveillable. So I didn't have a tool, and I started to create Telegram to solve that problem. But then by 2013, after Edward Snowden's revelations, we realized that it's actually a global thing, and we better launch it. We launched Telegram in 2013, and without any marketing effort, it instantly started to be popular in places where privacy is at risk, and people's freedoms are limited.
Telegram has been instrumental for various global movements, from Hong Kong to Belarus. How do you perceive its impact? And how was this as a development for you?
I think Telegram was very impactful when it comes to defending the right of people to protest and assemble in regions where there are limitations of the freedoms. In China, for example, or let's say in Hong Kong first, we were used very extensively by the protesters. And we knew it was efficient, we knew it was impactful, because China started one of the largest DDoS attacks in the history of internet services against Telegram. And we were barely available to our users because it was so powerful. So we could say China was really, really upset with it. So I think it was sort of a badge of honor that we received from the Chinese government at that point. But we tried to be protective of people all over the world. In Belarus, when the protests started several years ago, we refused to censor any voices of dissenters. We actually sent a poll to every user in Belarus asking to vote to choose the candidate they voted for in the presidential election, because back then people were upset that the results of the elections were rigged and that they were falsified. And we had a lot of users in Belarus who said, we thought, let's check whether the results were indeed falsified. And it was quite interesting that the results really were very different from the official numbers.
So you are unfortunately not on this stage, and you're not on this stage with us here in person because you, of all places, are in France, and you were not allowed to leave France to join us in the Oslo Freedom Forum because a judge did not permit you to leave. So you have faced these legal challenges in France, including the allegations that Telegram has enabled illegal activity. How do you respond to the accusations made against you and against Telegram? And it's kind of interesting that it's Telegram and you at the same time. You're both one and the same under these allegations.
Yeah, so I was indeed very surprisingly, very unexpectedly detained for 4 days in Paris last year. And I was accused of being complicit in the crimes of people that use Telegram and of people I have never heard about and never communicated with. And just by being the creator of this app, I was accused in all kinds of crimes being perpetrated by our users. And, we have 1 billion users, so we're bound to have statistically some people who use Telegram for nefarious purposes. That was extremely strange. It was unparalleled and unprecedented in the Western world to have a CEO of a large, super popular platform like Telegram being detained. It was even more surprising that we complied with all the binding legal requests that we received. So up until this day, we don't understand what we did wrong. We processed all the requests that were directed to us in accordance with the European and international law. It's actually the opposite. That somehow the French authorities, the French police, decided not to use these tools. And it was even more surprising that I'm a French citizen, right? So my personal address, where I could be reached if anything is wrong, if there's any problem with communication with Telegram, I could have been reached. My address was known to the authorities of France. Actually, it's even more funny because my personal office in Dubai and the French consulate are in the same building. They're 2 floors apart. And I was a frequent visitor to the consulate. I was also, I had a regular meeting with officials representing the French government. I was in touch with them on Telegram. So it was so surprising that despite all these open lines of communication, when everything could have been solved if there was ever any issue, could have been solved very easily, I was unexpectedly detained in Paris. And this investigation has been ongoing since, and it's going on frustratingly slow.
So are you a hostage in France? Do you consider yourself a hostage? Why are you being singled out? Why are you, who have a billion-person messaging service, are being singled out and say, when Mark Zuckerberg visits France, he's not being singled out? Why you, and are you a hostage?
Well, I can only theorize with the reasons that I was selected. I seem to be held at higher standards than most other platforms. We actually made some research. We compared Telegram with Instagram, with Facebook, with Snapchat, with other platforms here in France. And it seems that everybody has the same issues. With Telegram is actually more efficient in terms of moderation than all of these platforms. And you're right, you can accuse everybody in the same things that we were accused of. So we're quite puzzled. The reasons, I don't know, maybe it's because we're the only non-US company. We are not protected by this big American government that is very powerful. I'm not quite sure.
Well, does it have something to do, and I must tell you, we at the Oslo Freedom Forum focus exclusively on dictatorships. We're not here to criticize democracies. Is the French intelligence using you and pressuring you in a horribly awful, amoral way to do what they want you to do, and that's why they're holding this case against you? That's sort of, you have alleged that the head of French intelligence came to you and said to you, we want you to turn off certain channels in this Romanian election, and we want you to turn off certain conservative channels. You've alleged that, and the French have come out and said that meeting never happened. Tell us about how democratic France is.
Well, it's quite funny because the first officially, the French government first officially denied my claim, and then I provided some more details, and they had to confirm the meetings actually took place, but then they said that these meetings were related to something else. I was indeed, asked by the head of French intelligence, Nicolas Lerner, to do what you described, and interestingly, after the denial came, it turned out that there are other facts confirming what I just said. The same gentleman turned out to be in Romania 2 days before the presidential elections. There was a claim made by the closest ally of President Macron, who said just a week before the elections that they will do everything that they need to do on the ground to make sure the candidate they like gets elected. So I think it was something that it should be clarified. Telegram does not take any position in the elections in Romania. We don't like one candidate over the other. I just think it's very important to be very transparent about what kinds of requests we receive and make sure that everybody is playing by the same rules and all the same standards are applied to all players in the political competition.
Well, let me move slightly now. Authoritarian countries don't play by the rules, and they don't use similar standards for everyone. What measures are you employing at Telegram to protect activists and journalists from, say, retaliation or surveillance?
So at Telegram, we've been the pioneer of multiple tools that protect dissidents. For example, we launched the Selfdestruct timer in 2013.
Wait. So you were the first ones to do this?
Well, we were...
I thought it was Signal.
No, we did it years before Signal, before WhatsApp. It's most of the things you use in modern messaging apps, they actually first arrived in Telegram. I have it on my Telegram channel, all the stats and infographics, you can check it out. So yeah, we're the first to launch the Self-Destruct timer, the way to lock your app with an additional pass lock so that all the information will be protected without this additional password or PIN. I think we were the single most mass market messaging app that allows you to remotely delete entire chats for all of the participants of the chat, so that if there's a problem, some of the people got apprehended by an authoritarian regime, you can remotely delete the messages, which I don't think anybody else is doing it. We invest a lot in encryption since 2013. We were one of the first to roll out end-to-end encryption for millions of people, probably the first even, because WhatsApp did it much later. And
but how do you maintain those encryption standards while also addressing like legitimate security concerns?
So the encryption standards are maintained by the fact that Telegram is an open source app, so everybody can verify that the encryption we use on Telegram is the same encryption that we claim to be using, right? So there are very few apps that do the same. WhatsApp is not open source, for example. Signal, you can't verify that their iOS app is actually the same app that you think it is. You can't prove that it's the same on GitHub and on the App Store. So Telegram is quite unique here, and we think there could be the right balance between the purposes of law enforcement and privacy. It's, because we say messages are sacred. We never disclose a single word from your private messages to anyone. They're protected by very strong encryption and other mechanisms. But if there's a serious concern about some crime, violent crime that is about to happen, we would be provided a serious justification and legal documents open to disclose the IP address or the phone number of the user of Telegram that is suspected in the serious crime. And we do it quite consistently and openly. We publish transparency reports related to that every quarter.
Well, there are a lot of emerging young tech entrepreneurs that are watching this, and they're building platforms that want to prioritize human rights and prioritize the resistance against authoritarianism. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I think they should trust their own intuition and not be afraid to experiment. For example, when it comes to encryption, currently pretty much every large American company is using exactly the same encryption algorithm. Few people realize that WhatsApp, Signal, Instagram, Facebook, even Google, they all rely on the same encryption that was developed about more than 10 years ago using a fund using money from the Open Tech Fund that comes from the Department of Defense of the United States. And maybe that encryption algorithm is great, but if there's something wrong with it, we live in a very fragile world where billions of people depend on something that can end up being compromised. So people who are developing their own encryption standards, they will be criticized a lot. They will face a lot of pressure because the security and cryptography experts, they would always say, oh, you should just use the thing that everybody else is using because we have kind of proven that it's secure. But in fact, the history of this industry knows many examples when very respected cryptographic experts, years after, it turned out to be undercover agents of security agencies and governmental organizations who were just trying to promote a standard that was helping the goals of the government.
So, you've given a lot of good, comprehensive answers about your past, everything ranging from ice cream to the idea of starting this when the SWAT team was coming into your apartment. How do you see Telegram evolving, and what are your plans for Telegram? What is your long-term vision for it?
So Telegram is currently the number 2 most popular global messaging app in the world. We have more than 1 billion users. I believe that we have very good chances at becoming number 1 messaging app in the world because people love the high quality, they love the technological superiority, and most of all, they love the independence, the transparency, and the privacy of Telegram. So it's quite probable that we reach 3 or 4 billion of users at some point in the next 10 years if we keep doing what we're doing and become number one. But most importantly, I think we should keep innovating and keep protecting people's privacy and freedom of speech. I think it's incredibly important to have a platform like Telegram that allows people to subscribe to channels and sources for information that are not manipulated by algorithmic feeds, because pretty much all other social media platforms, they have this non-transparent algorithms that decide for people what they are supposed to view in their feeds or not. On Telegram, people are in control. There's a lot of other things in the future. We're hopefully going to make a very exciting announcement related to the integration of modern AI technology into Telegram within the next couple of days. So let's see.
So when we started the Oslo Freedom Forum, we were telling people about Bitcoin and really encouraging people to buy Bitcoin. I don't know if you learn about Bitcoin through the Oslo Freedom Forum, but I do know that you bought more than $1 million in Bitcoin in 2013. That's what I've read. What is that worth today? I mean, I know Telegram is worth tens and tens of billions of dollars, but what is your Bitcoin stash worth? And do you have your own coin? Just give us I'm not telling you to promote your altcoin here, but tell us a little bit about that. Is it true that you bought a bunch of Bitcoin in 2013 when we told all of you to buy Bitcoin in 2013?
It's true. I've been relatively early in Bitcoin. I believe blockchain is a technology of the future. It's also the technology of freedom. It empowers people. We also launched or designed our own blockchain architecture several years ago, which was intended to solve the scalability issue. So the cryptocurrency and blockchain that we designed is called the Open Network, or TON, and we believe it's the only inherently scalable network that can process hundreds of thousands of millions of transactions, which is very important for platforms like Telegram. And we use it to give the power back to the people. For example, I think we're the only app that allows, or popular app that allows people to tokenize their usernames and start directly owning their usernames through blockchain, so that no one, including us at Telegram, can take their digital identity away from them. And I actually think we're the only one that allows people to log into Telegram just by using their blockchain wallet without having to rely on a phone number, for example. So we're experimenting a lot with that, and we think there's a lot more to come. And we're big fans of blockchain in general, and Bitcoin and Toncoin in particular.
Well, that's a beautiful way of completely evading my question about your Bitcoin stash. So Pavel, it's been wonderful to talk to you. Would you have one last message that you want to leave us with?
Well, my last message would be, Telegram will always remain a neutral platform that defends everybody, regardless of their political views or nationality, will be equally protecting conservatives and liberals, and, communists and libertarians, Russians, Ukrainians, Palestinians and Jews. Like, for us, what's important is the consistency and the respect to basic human rights. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to maintain that in our polarizing in our world that is becoming so polarized. But we'll do what we can, and we believe this is the right approach, and we believe that this approach will prevail, because people deserve to be trusted with the freedom to decide how they want to communicate and what sorts of information they want to consume.
So a one-word answer, and I'm being told that we're way over time. And one-word answer: would you ever betray your users?
No.
Pavel Durov, thank you very much.
Thank you.